Oh, North Korea, when will you learn? How's it going, guys? Thought I'd bring you a bit of topical rambling today on everyone's favorite country, North Korea. Thought I would kind of, I've been watching the news over the past couple of weeks over, how the whole situation's been developing on the random nuclear threats from Kim Jong-un, and I gotta be honest, when they announced the death of Kim Jong Il on the radio, he probably died like 10 years ago without anyone realizing, to be honest, and they've just been keeping it hidden the whole time. But like when they announced Kim Jong Il's death and they, had the grand news report and they showed scenes of all these North Korean people crying in front of his statue, that kind of stuff, it was horrific to watch, honestly. If you've not seen that footage, type Kim Jong Il death crying into YouTube and you'll just see these weird images of just like thousands and thousands of people just crying over his death. It's really can you imagine if they did that to Thatcher? That'd be weird. But anyways, the point is, going back to like when they announced that on the TV, on the radio, I thought, right, now that Kim Jong Il's gone, like he was obviously not the best leader for the country, and he'd been, getting a lot of criticism, sort of international pressures from the US, the UK, like sanctions from the UN, that kind of stuff. And to be honest, like, he never did anything completely outrageous. Like, he never got to the point where he was saying, "I'll kill you all, Americans! Don't mess with me!" As is the current situation, it seems. And I thought that when he died and when his son took over, Kim Jong-un, I'm probably going to mix these names up at some point, so apologies if I do. When Kim Jong-un took over, I assumed that everything would sort of mellow out. Like, he'd realise that, his dad made some mistakes, and he'd think, alright, let's, wipe the slate clean, we'll try harder this time. Oh dear, were we wrong. The whole sort of culture of North Korea, like, I genuinely feel bad for the people of North Korea. Just the ordinary citizens who are just born into North Korea, and, they're educated in the system. They're under the sort of, what do you call it? Like the barriers regarding information from the rest of the world, that kind of stuff. So they are basically indoctrinated into this sort of North Korean cult, if you like. To be honest, they still regard Kim Il-'s son, Kim Jong-il's dad, as the, what is it, the eternal president or something of their country. It is a cult, they're worshipping him as a god. And even Kim Jong-il, they said that, oh, it was reported that he could control the weather, that kind of stuff. It's bizarre to think about. Like I said, can you imagine this with any other country in the world? Can you imagine France saying that Francois Hollande can manage to, control the seasons, he can talk to dogs, all this ridiculous stuff? It's absolute madness. But the people are taught into believing this stuff. They don't really have a choice, so you can't really blame the people for this. They're just unlucky enough to be born into that country. But like I was saying, the madness that's going on at the moment, like I said with the whole cult worship thing, whatever, you would think that Kim Jong-un is trying to do this whole, threatening the Americans and the Japanese with all this sort of nuclear warfare, this kind of stuff, as a sign of saying, hey, look at me, I'm a threat, Can't power my own country's homes or, feed my people, but I can nuke your asses to hell. You better watch out. It's a very bizarre threat. To be honest, I can understand the sort of mentality in, like, the Middle Ages, where you'd have sort of countries, like, big empires, like, trying to take over neighbouring countries, swordsmen going in with cavalry, slaying the villagers, pillaging the city, raping the wives and whatnot, like all that kind of old-time stuff, Back in the good old days, that's how war took place. We're in the 21st century, there is no, like, that sort of society doesn't exist anymore. We're in a society where we open McDonald's franchises on each other's streets, we trade freely, we go on a holiday, everyone's nice to each other for the most part. There is a big international integration going on. The world is becoming more and more sort of homogenous, we're all sort of blending in. I like it, it's a mixture of cultures, everyone is sort of mixing together. If you look at South Korea, I think they divided sort of, what was it, at the end of World War II, like 1945. I don't know too much about history, but I've briefly looked into sort of Korean history. And to be honest, when they divided, you can see that sort of South Korea has definitely taken a huge step forward. Like, South Korea is one of the most developed countries in the world. I think it's pretty safe to say that they're probably a lot more developed than the UK, technologically speaking. You know, it's a place I'd love to live, to be honest, South Korea, but probably not for the foreseeable future because of what's going on. But the point is, the way they've diverged sort of should suggest to the North Korean monarchy, if you like, you know, what should be going on if they want to progress their country, economically speaking. You know, if they want to improve the welfare, the living standards of all their people, which you'd think a government would want to do. It improved their own standards too. At the moment they're siphoning off all funds to, you know, give the leaders expensive wine and strippers and big guns, but, you know, if they went to the effort of actually improving their economy as a whole, if they broke out of the whole sort of, you know, autarchistic regime, sort of trying to control their own country, shutting themselves off from the rest of the world, if they tried to blend in with the rest of the world, be like a worldwide trading force like South Korea. Like, South Korea opened up its trade, I can't remember when it was, maybe like the 70s, but they had these free trade policies trying to encourage foreign direct investment, all this kind of stuff. And you can see the growth of the country just skyrocketed, and people in South Korea are very rich, very happy, as you'd expect. So, you know, you'd think that you have these North Koreans looking over the border thinking, well, I'd like to get in on that. But like I was saying about the conflict, it's all a big thing. Like, you know, you can imagine Kim Jong Un kind of thinking, well, we kind of want to seem as a threat. We don't want to seem weak to the rest of the world and our own people. So, you know, let's make these threats. Whether or not they'll actually materialize as proper threats, I have no idea. I don't know. Like, for all we know, North Korea could be, like, the most advanced society in the world, and we just don't know it. Like, they could have robots patrolling the streets, blocking our radar signals, you know, projecting a false image of the country, of them living in poverty. I don't know. Or they'll just fire their nukes and a little, you know, little paper flag saying bang will come out, made by Acme or something, you know, that kind of stuff. I have no idea. We could all be radioactive dust in the next week. Point is, North Korea, I feel like the result is going to be, he's going to launch some kind of attack, and it's going to fail. Now, obviously, the rest of the world, obviously they've got to defend their own, you know, they've got to defend America, South Korea, all the countries which may be at threat. At the same time, you don't really want to go in, like, I'm not an expert on politics or military or anything, I'm just sort of throwing ideas out there, so, you know, leave your discussions in the comment section below. I'm free, open to discussion. My opinions are just opinions, they're not really that valuable, they're just sort of stuff that I'm throwing out there. The international community can't really just step in and say, alright, we're taking over this land. Citizens, you're fine, you're saved, we've taken care of Kim Jong-un, and we are now seizing control of this land. You'll all be fine in a few weeks. Not really very politically viable, especially given that China is supposedly still backing North Korea. Although, you know, maybe eventually they'll go crazy and start bombing China, in which case, yeah, we've definitely got the upper hand in that case. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. What is going to happen? What would you do if you had the power? None of us have the power, but if we had the power, what would you do to try and, you know, solve the situation? And with that being said, I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.